My name is Lauren, and I am the nutritionist for Mondays at Racine. And today we're going to be talking about some winter nutrition hacks. So on the menu today, I'll do a brief overview, and we're going to go through a smoothie recipe, a salad, a soup, an entree, dessert, tea, and then, as I mentioned, we'll talk about, I'll answer questions, and I'll also show you guys the references that I use, which is a little boring, but just to kind of give you an idea of where I get this stuff from. It's not just from my brain. I make sure that everything is sourced and cited. So what we're going to cover is the importance of plant-based eating. Of course, if you guys know me or if you've seen any of my videos before, a lot of this might sound familiar because the most important part of eating is getting nutrients. And the ultimate healthy nutrition hack is plant-based eating, which is all the dishes that I'll mention today are plant-based. And then we're going to go into specific nutrients that are vital in the winter and really all year round in this presentation. And the ones that I'm going to highlight are vitamin C, antioxidants, vitamin D, the B vitamin group, zinc, and L-theanine. And we're going to discuss some other ways that you can get those nutrients besides just the recipes that I bring up. So what is plant-based eating? It doesn't necessarily mean a vegetarian or vegan style of eating. It just means that we make sure a big variety of colorful fruits and vegetables are in our day-to-day, intake. Making sure that there is more fruit and vegetables on our plate than anything else is also key. And this ensures that we're getting a lot of vital micronutrients every day. Eating a low-fat plant-based diet gives immunity a boost. This can be attributed to the higher intake of vitamins and minerals and the lower intake of saturated fat. Regular intake of fruits and vegetables and whole grains increases our fiber consumption. And a regular intake of fiber, which comes from fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, can really help our gut microbiota, which is also important for strong immunity. It's really the foundation of our immunity starts in our gut. Because plant-based foods are rich in antioxidants, they naturally reduce oxidative stress. Consumption of vitamin C rich foods reduces the duration and the severity of common colds and can prevent pneumonia. Vitamin C is an antioxidant, as I'm sure most of you know, and it protects our cells from free radical damage. So this is going to aid in the production of collagen, of tendons, ligaments, and blood vessels. It promotes wound healing, and vitamin C also helps with our teeth, our bones, and it reduces inflammation. So, and it also, vitamin C will help aid in the absorption of iron. So if you've ever had any anemia issues, eating iron can help your body actually properly utilize iron. Supplements with vitamin C can make chemo drugs less effective. So I don't suggest taking any vitamin C supplement. You want to make sure you're getting your vitamin C from dietary sources. But of course, before you do anything drastic, you should talk to your doctor. I don't suggest that you suddenly start chugging, orange juice or eating mass quantities of vitamin C out of nowhere. But small gradual changes are kind of the way to do this. So this is a vitamin C rich smoothie, and it's pretty versatile. This doesn't necessarily have to be specifically this way, but this is one that I think is pretty good. It's just one yellow bell pepper, a pint of strawberries, you cut the tops off, and a cup of papaya or mango. They sell in the store cut up mango you could buy, or they have, if you don't want to buy a papaya, which papayas are really easy to cut. They're very soft, and then you just scoop the seeds out. So you could buy a fresh papaya or a fresh mango, but if you don't want to do that, you can also buy canned papaya, which usually doesn't have anything else besides the papaya and its natural juice. And you could stick that right in the blender. That's not going to be super cold unless you add ice or you add some filtered water. You could also add some other kind of berries. You can add almond milk to make it a little smoother, or any kind of milk that you usually have. And this is kind of a nice little smoothie you could have any time of the day. The highest vitamin C bell pepper is actually red. So you could use red. Yellow has vitamin C too. So does orange. Those three colors has more than green, but red is the highest. One red pepper, I believe the numbers has 278% of your daily needed vitamin C. So having one red bell pepper is all the vitamin C that you need in the day plus more. And vitamin C is water soluble. So if you ate mass quantities of vitamin C, it's not like you would have too much, like you couldn't overdose from it. You would just urinate it out. These are a list of foods that you can eat to get more vitamin C in your diet. I won't read through them all, but you know, you can get vitamin C from a lot of different things. And as I mentioned just now about the frozen fruits, you can also get frozen vegetables this way. If you wanted to buy frozen cauliflower and stuff like that. Now they have cauliflower rice too, which I find pretty versatile. You could use that as a base for chili, or even make it sort of like home fries in the morning. We kind of do that sometimes too, like sauteing up cauliflower rice. You can even add cheese. It's almost like uh, kind of like grits, I guess, in a way, but it's another way you can get a boost of vitamin C, and it's kind of the unique way to do it. Most people don't eat cauliflower for breakfast, but that's something that is an option. So we already discussed vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, and vitamin E is also an antioxidant. Other naturally occurring antioxidants are flavonoids, tannins, phenols, and lignans. I'm sure you know antioxidants protect our cells from free radicals, and free radicals are the molecules that our body produces when toxins come in. So plant-based foods, as I mentioned, are really the best sources to get antioxidants from. So this winter salad has a variety of antioxidants in it. Again, it's pretty versatile. They do have like the shredded Brussels sprouts in the store now, like packaged, but if you wanted to just buy Brussels sprouts and stick them in your food processor for a second, you could shred them. And if Brussels sprouts aren't your thing, you don't have to use Brussels sprouts. You could use another kind of lettuce. And in this recipe, I mentioned chopped kale, but you could use baby kale, which is a little more like spinach. So some people prefer that over the chopped kale, which has some of those like harder pieces in it. And this recipe calls for cubed butternut squash. That's another thing that you can buy frozen, which would make it much easier than buying a butternut squash, cutting it, seeding it, roasting it. You could buy the butternut squash in the bag and just saute it for a couple minutes, or stick it on a lined baking sheet with some oil on it and cook it on 400 for a little bit. And throw that in with the salad. You can use the beets they sell now in the produce section, or in like a little bubble package. They're roasted and there's not really much sugar, where the canned ones typically have a bunch of sugar in them. Either way, beets are just good for you because there's so much purple in them, so they're loaded with antioxidants. And this calls for pomegranate seeds, another thing you can get in a little package in the produce section. But you could use blueberries, you could use blackberries, whatever berry you prefer. And this dressing is kind of like a mustard vinaigrette, which is one of my favorites. So you just kind of beat all that together. You can use any kind of cheese you want. If you don't like goat cheese, you could use feta, you could use shredded mozzarella. And pecans are actually high in antioxidants, so that's what I put in this recipe. But you could also use walnuts, which are rich in omega-3. So this is a really nice way to incorporate a lot of different things into one salad that's just every bite has like a ton of flavor and is all nutrient. So yeah, so other antioxidants are some of the other things I'd mentioned before, because vitamin C is an antioxidant, but there's plenty of ways to get antioxidants in your diet every day. And these are some of the ways, even thyme, which is just a spice, and parsley, oregano. Okay. So now vitamin D. This is an important one in the wintertime because we're not going outside. So spending time in the sun is by far the greatest and best way to get vitamin D. But if you're not going outside a lot, most people are deficient this time of year. So in order to get vitamin D in vitamin form, you're going to want to make sure that you're eating it, and that can be more difficult. Vitamin D promotes the body's immune response by digesting and destructing microbes and particles that pose a risk to our body. What it actually does is monocyte phagocytosis. So kind of, I think of it like a Pac-Man. It sort of eats yucky stuff in our body and digests it to make it just waste, instead of stick around in our body and create gunk and bad stuff. Vitamin D has also been shown to reduce biomarkers that are related to decreased immunity in postmenopausal women. So this is a very important nutrient that we want to make sure we're getting. Also, vitamin D promotes calcium absorption in the gut. So a lot of times, if you were taking it in supplement form, which, you know, I don't suggest ever starting anything like that without speaking with your doctor, but if you were, commonly they tell you to take it with calcium. So if you're taking vitamin D, you'd have it with, you know, yogurt or something like that. So it's also a good idea to mix different recipes that have vitamin D with things that also have calcium. So this recipe is a mushroom soup. I will, as I mentioned, I'll make sure you guys have all these. So I won't read the whole thing because that would just be time consuming and probably boring. But this is, you know, calls for one of those little packages of mushrooms. Make sure you wash them well because usually they're dirty, and slice them thin. And this has, you know, your basic sort of beginning to any good soup, onions and garlic. I mentioned coconut oil in this recipe, but you could use whatever oil you usually use. I'm not a big fan of vegetable oil, so I don't really suggest that, but you know, using olive oil, grapeseed oil, or as I mentioned, coconut oil. And you can add balsamic to this to make it a little like tart, but you don't necessarily have to if you don't want. And I mentioned Bragg's amino acids, but of course, if you have soy sauce, you can use that too. Bragg's aminos taste just like soy sauce, but it has amino acids in it, so it's a more complete nutrient than just soy sauce, which is just kind of like sodium and soy. So this is something you can store for a couple of days in the fridge if you don't want to eat it right away, but it's very good warm. The other thing I want to bring up in this is beef bone broth. So in the store, in the area where they have, you know, your boxes of soups and broths, they now sell bone broths. This has significantly more protein than your average broth. So a regular chicken stock or beef stock doesn't really have any protein at all, but the bone broth does. And it is great for your ligaments, your tendons. It can reduce inflammation. It can help arthritis. So it's really like a magic thing that they sell now so easily. Because years ago, if you wanted a bone broth, you would have had to cook a whole, you know, chicken bones or beef bones yourself in a stock. So this is has multiple benefits to it. It has vitamin D from the mushrooms, but it also has protein and is just a warming, comforting recipe. So getting more vitamin D in your day, obviously not a lot of these things are vegetarian. The only one is mushrooms. So that makes either supplementation or getting sun time more important for vegetarians. Unless you're a pescatarian and you want to eat all these fish. But I don't know a lot of people that eat sardines, but they are super healthy. Cod liver oil also, and canned tuna is a good source of vitamin D as well, which is an easy one. So this recipe is a baked salmon. You know, you can go to the fish area of your grocery store and ask them to clean it and cut it for you already if you don't want to do that yourself. And it's kind of a mess-free-ish recipe because you kind of are going to make a tinfoil package with the fish. So you'll use sliced lemon, melted butter. You can use any kind of like sweetener. If you don't have honey, you can use agave, you can use a little maple syrup. I think honey is probably the best bet for this dish, but if you were just using a little bit of it, I don't think maple syrup would be too terrible when it's mixed with the garlic and the butter and everything. So you'll use a baking sheet for this, line it with tinfoil. To make it really mess-free, you can use tinfoil on the pan, like 2 layers, and then once you put the fish on the top layer, you can close it up like that. And this, you know, obviously you want to serve it hot. I wouldn't suggest making it and putting it in the fridge. And some possible sides you could have with this that also have vitamin B, because salmon is really high in B vitamins. You could also have, you really can't get enough B vitamins. There's 8 of them. I'm going to go into that a little more. There's 8 of them that are essential, but some other foods that have B vitamins that you can pair with the salmon are spinach, collard greens, turnip greens, and romaine lettuce. You can make like a salad and put the salmon on top, or you can serve it alongside a vegetable. You could also eat it with whatever vegetable you like, or even, you know, brown rice, quinoa, potatoes. So to get a little further into B vitamins, as I mentioned, 8 of the vitamins that our body needs every day are B group vitamins, and they're essential for various metabolic processes. They help convert other nutrients into food. So I know a lot of times people say like, oh, vitamin B12 shot like boosts my energy. That's actually kind of a myth that vitamin B itself is energy. It's more that it's necessary for the breakdown of other nutrients. So it helps other things in our body become energy. It sort of turns other things into fuel. Vitamin B also helps multiply DNA in our body, making new cells. It maintains our skin health and supports nervous and digestive system. So getting more B vitamins. Now this is, I was going to bring this up anyway. So for vegetarians, a very sort of beneficial B vitamin food, which is unique, is brewer's yeast. It is loaded with folate, which is one of the key players in the B group. It's very vital, necessary nutrient that our body needs, and sometimes a lot of people don't get enough, but it also is in green leafy vegetables. But brewer's yeast can be used. You could sprinkle it on your salad. You could put it in a soup. You could, I mean, it has a little bit of that sort of cheesy, yeasty flavor. So I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not someone who would probably put it on yogurt, but you could put it on yogurt. People put it on like a little bit on their cereal. So that's something that is pretty a unique sort of food for vegetarians that is beneficial. And, you know, of course, nuts, seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, all of those things, even sesame seeds. Of course, most people don't eat a ton of sesame seeds, but you could also have tahini, which that's another good way to make a dressing. I love a tahini dressing. You just put it in a little blender, add the tahini and then water, blend that first, and then you could add lemon or garlic or basil, and that's another really delicious, creamy dressing that is also vegan. So getting other B vitamins, you know, eggs are rich in B vitamins, shellfish, some citrus fruits, cauliflower. So yeah. Now zinc. So zinc protects our body from infections. It basically helps our body signal that it needs immunity. That's sort of the job of one of the jobs of zinc. Some studies have shown that zinc prevents viruses from attaching to our lungs, our windpipe, and our nasal cavities because it interacts with the outer layer of the virus. So it helps reduce the symptoms of radiation in the neck, head and neck as well. Intaking dietary forms of zinc are ideal. You're taking a zinc supplement doesn't always break down in the gut. Our stomach acid will kind of ruin it. And also it can create a bad taste in your mouth, which is something that you probably don't want to deal with if you already are having that issue due to some of the medication you're on. But there are a lot of dietary sources of zinc, shellfish, wheat. And when I say wheat, I really prefer for it to be like a whole wheat and instead of like a processed refined wheat, but really any kind of wheat should give you a little bit of zinc. Rice, oats, quinoa, hemp seeds. Actually, this picture has hemp seeds. The top left is hemp seeds. They're a little soft and pretty nutty, so they're a really nice thing you could throw on a salad again. You know, that's something that I do put on yogurt. You could even just have like a teaspoon of them and they're pretty good. They're not, compared to your other seeds, which are like crunchy and weird, hemp seeds are nice because they're more buttery kind of. Also pine nuts, lentils. Lentils are amazing because they're not only rich in zinc, they're also rich in protein. So making all different kinds of lentil recipes helps you get a variety of nutrients. And a special one is dark chocolate. And of course, when I say dark chocolate, I don't mean like a Hershey's bar chocolate, but the darker the better. So I try to say 65% and up. But if you're not into a bittery chocolate and that's what you buy and then you don't love it, you could always put a little peanut butter on it. I kind of convinced myself that that's what a peanut butter cup tastes like, even though it does not. But again, pumpkin and squash seeds are another huge player here in micronutrients because they not only have B vitamins, but they also have zinc and they are rich in omega-3 and also iron. So this is a fun one compared to the other dishes we've discussed. This is a recipe for a chocolate chunk pumpkin seed cookie. So you can use regular flour if that's what you use, if you're not gluten-free, but you can use an all-purpose gluten-free flour for this as well. and just your basic unsweetened cocoa powder. If you have like the box of Hershey cocoa powder that has no sugar, that is what you use for this. And you're going to toast the pumpkin seeds first. Actually, this actually calls for roasting them on a lined baking sheet on 350 for about 10 minutes. So they're a little crispy. But you could use sunflower seeds if you prefer sunflower seeds. They sell them in bags, like raw hulled sunflower seeds. So this recipe has, your basic cookie recipe. It has, baking soda, sugar, butter, eggs. I wrote flax eggs here. If you don't eat eggs or you're trying to cut back, say you had 3 eggs every day with breakfast and you want to eat something later on in the day that doesn't include eggs, a flax egg is just ground flax. It's a tablespoon of ground flax mixed into 3 tablespoons of warm water. So that bulks up the fiber content of this a lot. And flax is just all around good for you. It also has omega-3 in it. So this is a pretty good recipe for a cookie that's, still has sugar. It has 2 cups of sugar, but it has a little more nutrients than your average cookie. Now, this is something that, compared to the other things, the other nutrients I mentioned that you probably have heard of, this is one you probably have not heard of. This is L-theanine. So it's a unique amino acid that is mainly found in tea. And I think of it as sort of like nature's Xanax. That's kind of the way I bring it up to people when they tell me that they're either taking Xanax or they're on some sort of anxiety medication, or even just someone has mentioned that they've been having panic attacks or something. This is something that I always bring up. Since ancient times, green tea has been used for its relaxing effects, and that's because of the theanine. So it acts as a neurotransmitter in the brain. It helps relax and sort of sedate the stress signaling without sedating you. So it has no sedative effect. It will not make you drowsy. It's similar to tryptophan, which is in turkey. I'm sure everyone knows, like, you get like a turkey coma or turkey drunk. So it's in the same family, but it does not cause any sort of sleepiness. So you could take a bunch of this in the morning and be totally fine. But the one real way to get it dietarily is in green tea. They do sell it in supplements, and there's no known interaction. So if you were taking it in supplement form, chances are it's not going to interact with any drugs or medication you're on. It's been used for thousands of years, and if you look it up on even WebMD or anywhere on Google, you'll find that there's been no interactions with it. Colleen, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Lauren, how many cups of tea or how many bags would you have to drink to have the benefit? Thank you.
Probably like 3. So it's a lot. That's why this is the one thing compared to all the other things that I mentioned, that supplements for it aren't a bad idea if you are someone who has a lot of anxiety, or you suffer with panic attacks. It's also, I give this to my dogs like on the 4th of July and stuff like that, or before the vet. To be honest, they get it now every day. Because one of my dogs just is a nervous Nelly, and we adopted a 10-year-old dog who's like a nuisance, and it kind of helps calm him down. And this actually has some anti-cancer properties, and one of my dogs has a mast cell tumor, and she's older, so we're not doing treatment, and this is something that is part of her regimen. How do
you do that for the dogs? Because that would be helpful to pass on.
Yeah, I give them just a supplement. It's like a capsule. I give them just the same one that I would take.
Okay.
And for the one dog who's like a magician with spitting pills out, she's one of those dogs, like no matter what you wrap it in, she finds the pill and spits it out. I just open the capsule and I dump it on her food. And she's only 22 pounds and she takes 200 milligrams of this. So this is another thing that you cannot overdose on. If you took a whole bottle, which I don't suggest, but if you accidentally took a whole bottle of L-theanine or theanine, you would urinate it out. your body wouldn't go crazy or anything like that. Of course, I don't suggest that. And, it's better to start on a lower amount and see how it works for you. It's also something that builds up in your body. So if you were to take it for 7 days and then you stop for 2 days, you might still feel the effects for those 2 days that you weren't taking it. And then eventually it kind of wears off and you need to start taking it again. It also is something that you can take as like a Band-Aid. So if you were having a panic attack and you had this on hand and you took 200 milligrams, within about 20 minutes to a half an hour, you might feel the calming effects of it. Which I obviously hope you don't have a panic attack that lasts you that long, but it is very helpful. Beth, you have a question?
Yeah. So is it the supplement of L-theanine or the supplement of the green tea?
It's the supplement of the L-theanine.
Thionine.
Yeah, it's also called sunthionine sometimes, like the supplement in vitamin shop or in your health food store. Or another thing, since I'm mentioning supplements, which I usually don't talk about as a nutritionist, I usually just talk about food. But of course, as I'm mentioning, you can drink, if you like green tea, drink green tea. One way you can do that is also like making like a big amount of it, like making a whole teapot of green tea with numerous bags and then putting it in your fridge and sort of making it almost like the way Southern people make their sweet tea. You can make it hot and add some kind of sweetener right away, either sugar or agave or something like that, and then, or stevia, whatever you use, and then putting it into something for the refrigerator and leaving it in the refrigerator, and then you have already sweetened green tea, if you prefer that over just plain hot green tea. But as I mentioned, I don't usually talk about supplements, but because this is such a valuable thing, and there are, there's even been some studies that show that it can help improve the efficacy of some cancer drugs. Not all, and not for every type of cancer, so I don't want to put a blanket statement on that. I do always suggest you talk with your doctor before making any drastic changes, but this is something that they might not even know about until you bring it up, and then they might do their own research on it. There's literally nothing on the internet or in medical journals that says that this is dangerous to people. There's never been any cases of anyone having any adverse reaction. If nothing happens, that's the worst that would happen. But I mentioned you can get a vitamin shop or Whole Foods or Wild by Nature or wherever you buy supplements. But I've been hearing a lot of people getting supplements from Amazon, which I was definitely doing myself at some point, and they've been getting stuff that's not real. They're getting bottles of stuff that's either rotten, like someone got sunflower lettuce in and it was like congealed and they got really sick from it. So sometimes I think they're changing the expiration date on bottles, or they're just not properly storing stuff. Like if it was, they bought it from a wholesaler and then they leave it in like a hot warehouse and then sell it to you a year later. So I don't suggest getting anything off Amazon, even though it's so effective. I mean, it's so, like easy, we can go and buy everything on Amazon on our phones in a second, but that's one thing I don't suggest, like no protein powders or supplements or anything like that, which stinks. But another, yes.
I'm so sorry.
No,
So
don't
could you make like the green tea and then add 1 capsule into that for your?
You could. I don't know how well the capsule is going to like emulsify. Like I don't know if it would like if it would stay powdery or if it would dissolve. I've never tried that.
Okay.
But you could, and see how it works. You could even make like a green tea smoothie, like in your blender with ice and and try it that way. Colleen, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Lauren, if you took that suggestion of yours about making a pot of green tea and then storing it, and then would that count as just your regular water intake that we're trying to get consumed during the day, or is that different? I don't know if my question makes sense.
So it makes sense. So you are getting water because it's water, but because there's a little bit of caffeine, it also has a slight diuretic effect. So say you're drinking 4 cups of water in tea form, you want to think of it as maybe 3, give or take, because it's not enough where it's not going to flush your body out. You won't be getting any. Even coffee has some hydrating effect, and coffee obviously has way more caffeine than green tea and has more of a diuretic effect. But there's still water in it. I hope that answered your question. So green tea in general, in addition to having the L-theanine, it promotes mental alertness. It has shown in some studies to help relieve digestive symptoms. It can alleviate headaches. Even though there's some studies that show that, I don't know if that's because people typically have a lot of caffeine and this is helping like satiate that need, or if the actual properties in it have a headache alleviating property. I'm not really sure on that, but it was in one of the studies that I read. Green tea is also shown to promote weight loss. Again, I don't know if that's because people are drinking tons of green tea and eating less. So it's not necessarily a surefire weight loss supplement. I wouldn't buy green tea capsules as a way to lose weight. But green tea does have properties that can protect against heart disease. That's because it can lower your blood pressure. And as I mentioned before, it has some anti-cancer properties. So our last little hack here is spices. Spices can be used, not just to flavor your food, but they can also help improve blood circulation, which is something we kind of all need now as we're sitting around more often than we used to be. When you're cooking, you can throw some of these spices in to get your blood flowing and reap the benefit of these spices. That these benefits have been known for thousands of years. So curcumin helps stomach and liver problems. There are some studies that show that they can help with the lining of the stomach, like the mucosal lining, sort of help strengthen that. Or if there's like some formation of ulcer, it can help kind of alleviate that, because it helps wounds and can lighten scars. It sort of has this property of like, I don't know, sort of bringing together tissue in a sense. Ginger helps relax the blood vessels and stimulates blood flow and can relieve pain. Black pepper is actually an antioxidant and has antibacterial effects. Now, this is, if you're buying like fresh ground pepper, not really like the old powdery stuff that you had in the back of your spice cabinet for years. And then cinnamon has tons of different benefits, but a few of them, it's antimicrobial, it's antidiarrheal, and it has antioxidant properties. It increases biliary secretion, so it can help you break down food. And I didn't even mention here, but it helps control your blood sugar. So people that have like early stages of type 2 diabetes, adding a little bit of cinnamon to your food, especially when things are more sugary and sweet, it can help sort of balance that sugar spike. Coriander has a hypolipidemic action, so that helps lower your total cholesterol and your triglyceride levels. And garlic, which isn't really a spice, it's an alum, but it's used as something that we spice up our food with. It has so many benefits. All I wrote here was that it enhances our physical and mental well-being, because the benefits are just, there's so many. It also has anti-cancer properties. It can lower your blood pressure. It's good for your blood circulation in your heart. Robin, you have a question?
Yes. How much cinnamon should you have like a day?
You could try like a teaspoon a day. You can split it up. It's definitely, any amount would probably be beneficial, especially for someone that is having insulin issues, or glucose intolerance. But about a teaspoon would be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah, Colleen.
Thanks, Lauren. I personally have had very good results with, if I have an upset stomach, having a warm cup of water and slices of fresh ginger.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that? I think it's Ayurvedic type thing. I'm not sure where I learned. I heard it from my teacher, and that's when we are all gathering in our immersions for retreats. He always has sliced up ginger with lemon, and yeah,
that's great.
it helps with nausea.
Yeah, also when like in the early stage of pregnancy, they often tell people like to take in ginger chews or have, some kind of ginger. And that's kind of where the whole like, oh, if you have an upset stomach, drink ginger ale thing came from. Even though now ginger ale doesn't really have any ginger in it, it has like artificial ginger flavor. So that's sort of like a more of like a placebo thing. Like when you're on a plane and you're nervous, you drink a ginger ale. But real ginger actually does help alleviate nauseousness. And they sell, if you're not someone who wants to go buy a whole ginger root and peel it and bring it up, whatever, they sell ginger in the frozen section in these little rectangles. They have like little bubble packs, and each one has sliced or like minced ginger in it. They also sell garlic and basil and oregano like that, which is awesome.
In the regular, when I say regular, I mean, I'm talking about, ShopRite or Stop
Yeah,
and Shop stores.
think Stop and Shop. I mean, it's usually on the top of the frozen vegetable section. You'll see like
Okay.
a little sleeve kind of, and it'll have, I think the cover of it is red. And
Okay,
at the very least, they have garlic like that in the regular store.
nice. Good, thanks.
No problem. I think I actually got ginger once at a ShopRite that way, but my ShopRite by me closed down, so I haven't been to ShopRite in a long time, so I haven't looked. But I know
If
definitely.
you're got, oh, excuse me, if you're going to use ginger, you can just peel it and then store it in the fridge for a little bit, right? I mean, and they do sell smaller pieces.
Yes, they do. And ginger is something, since it has like antibacterial, antimicrobial like properties. It's not something that's gonna go bad quickly.
Okay.
And you
Thanks,
can
Lynn.
also store that in your freezer as well.
Oh, you can peel it and then store it in your freezer?
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Robin. Oh, okay. Liz, do you have a question?
Just a suggestion going back to well, first of all, the ginger, when you're going through chemo,
Yeah.
that's a big thing to use for nausea. Even I was told by the nurses, you buy the motion sickness for you actually have to go to the boat store and buy that
Dramamine?
yeah, the motion sickness stuff.
Yeah.
It's not Dramamine, it's something else. It's a ginger pill
Oh, cool.
that helps with the nausea. And just a quick note on the cinnamon, which I learned from my acupuncturist. He told me to buy cinnamon sticks, and you actually boil them in water till the water turns like a light brownish color, and that's supposedly loaded with antioxidant properties. It doesn't really taste too bad either after you get used to the taste, but it's not that strong. And he was big on how much it would help.
Oh, that's awesome. And it seems like something that would be like delicious, especially like in the fall or like around the holidays,
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess you could put like some raw honey in it or something like that to sweeten it up a little. It's not really a bad drink.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so as I mentioned, any drastic changes that you're going to make, if you're deciding to completely shift your diet totally, I would definitely talk to your doctor first. And, typically don't begin taking any supplements unless it's cleared by your oncologist. And this is my information. I'm always available with questions. You can email me, you can text or call me, and you could also follow my Instagram and message me through that. I'm pretty available. I'm home with a baby, so anytime you ever want to chat, I'm around. And just so you guys know, I got this information from real places as my references.